Welcome to Identity Leathercraft. Today's session we're going to look at doing crossover edge stitch. I'm just going to show you a piece here. So it's a stitch that just wraps around the edge. It kind of covers over your edge a little and you create this quite interesting effect. Works really well for little pouches. It's also quite a good, quick and easy stitch. And done the way I'm going to show you, it's a good stitch that you can do with children for making up iPhone cases or phone cases. So I've got a piece of leather that I've cut out earlier into sort of a pouch shape, and I'm going to use the narrow tape, double-sided tape. So this just helps to keep the leather in position while you're making your holes. It keeps it nice and straight and gives a much neater finish, and that tape is available on the website. Just going to use my awl to lift the cover of the tape off, the double-sided tape. This is just the little tricky bit, getting it underneath. There we go. And I'm going to place my leather over, lining up all my edges. And press down into place. And I normally at this point I just would have a quick look, and if there's anything as the two edges are together that needs a bit of a trim off, to neaten, turn it backwards and forwards and see where you've got anything. I just want it to look a little neater before I start. And I'm going to show you how to do the holes in a really simple way. You can use your groover and your chisel, but we're going to just measure. So I'm going to mark out on the side of the leather 5mm in, make a little hole. And then I'm going to position the ruler so that that line is parallel to my edge here. And starting from the top, I'm going to put in a mark every 5mm. And for this, I'm using just the standard brad awl, so it's got a sharp point and it's round tipped. And this is on the website at £4.50. It's a really good basic starting awl. So I've marking my holes down, just keeping my line straight, which I veered off slightly by looking up. When I get to my corner, I'm going to go round, and it's obviously a bit trickier when you're using the measurements, so just measure along and turn the ruler as you go to get your corners marked in. And to make my holes, I'm going to use the stitch punch, spring stitch punch, which is a really handy tool. It's this tool here. Just has one small punch here. If you've got the rotary punch, it's the one on the smallest setting, but this is just quite a handy one that sits in the hand nicely, and because of the spring action on it, it means you can go quite quickly. So I'm going to line it up with, turn it the right way up, line it up with the holes, the marks I've made, and this punches through rather than pierces. You can hear the satisfying click. So I'm going to go along, you can see it springing back. Mark out my holes, and you'll see lots of little ends that collect from here. So I tend to tap them out into a jar, otherwise you end up with lots of little tiny circles everywhere. So go round and make your stitch holes. As they say, here's one I prepared earlier. So I've already done a row here, but I'm going to show you on this side. So I take a length of thread and my needle. Threading the needle, I'm using the large eye stitching needle, and this thread, using the white leather to show up for you and the red thread to make it more visible. This is our white eco leather that's tanned in a really environmentally friendly way, and it gives a lovely soft white leather which is good for drawing on or dyeing and getting bright colours. So I have a knot put in the end, and I'm going to just push that through and come out of one hole. So my knot is actually in the centre of my leather here, and I'm going to just with my needle poke my knot down a little and just press it down to flatten the knot. And then I want to take my thread and I'm going to wrap it around twice around that top, and as I pull my thread tight, I'm just going to make sure it's nice and parallel to that edge. So that's one go round, and that's the next one. So I've got a nice reinforced top, and then going from the back and coming up, I am left-handed, so just, I don't know if that will make a difference, and coming back down. So what you're doing is effectively wrapping the thread at an angle, and with your finger just carefully line it so that it ends up being in between those two holes. It's sort of in the centre there, and if you line it carefully as you go along, it's a lot easier than trying to go back and straighten it up. But you can see that once you get going with it, because I've got lovely nice neat large holes, apart from if I get it caught around here, I can start going fairly quickly. It's also, because it doesn't require a stitching pony or anything else, it's something that you can do in front of the television. Now I'm going to show you going round the corner so that you can see the angles, except I've missed a hole here. This thread I'm using is 1mm, so this is our braided cord on the website, and it comes in lots of nice colours, and as opposed to the thread of the brown one I showed at the beginning, which is a 0.8mm, so it just gives a bit less of a definition. But because this is quite a decorative stitch, it's quite nice to use a thicker thread. So as I'm going round the corner, I'm just adjusting the angle, so still keeping to the principle of it being in the middle, it's starting to space around the corner. Now normally what I would do is carry on the whole way round and get right to this top, bind around the top here and then reverse. Because I've already done that side, I'm just going to show you, and for speed I'm going to show you going the other way. So you can take the thread and reverse, going backwards on yourself, and this will start to create that crossover. And what you want to do is just make sure that you're crossing over right onto the edge. So again, it's about lining that thread up as it goes near to the big pull tight, just making sure it's in the place where you want it. So hopefully you can see that. like that. Now for speed, I'm just going to show you if I come up to the end earlier. So I'm just going to pretend I've finished. Thread another needle. So I've come up through my leather, I'm about to finish. So what I'm going to do is come around one more time around that top. And I'm going to leave a little loop open and thread my needle through. So when I pull that tight, I'm getting a kind of knotted action. From there you can push the needle back into the hole, come up through the centre and snip your threads. Now when you snip your threads, if you use a scissor, the width of the blade is also encountered, so you always end up with a little bit extra. So I'm going to use my precision craft knife. This means that I can gently saw through, and my thread is quite discreetly there, so I'm just going to poke it in and out of the way and press that down, and that gives me my crossover stitch. You could use a different colour for going back the other way, so you could do it in 2 colours, or do whatever you like with it. And sometimes it's nice just to keep it as a whip stitch. That's also another consideration. I do quite like crossing it over because it makes it very strong. So that's how you do crossover stitch. The materials mentioned and the leathers are available from our website www.identityleathercraft.com. Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.